Hey there, internets. This is Kyle with another edition of the My Business Launch Secrets YouTube channel. We're here on day 105, I believe, in this journey from starting a new online business, trying to go from $0 to $1 million within a year. We are, of course, nearing a third of the way through the year, and frankly, I'm still just in the process of trying to get this whole thing off the ground. I thought I would be, frankly, a little bit farther along, but variety of circumstances, partly due to some indecision on my own part, I recognize, but also partly due to just various other things going on in my life. I am not quite there yet, so I do have a plan in mind for at least getting things rolling, but I think I've just come to recognize over this past 3-month-ish period, this whole entrepreneurial journey is likely to be more of a slow burn rather than a just quick shot in the pan sort of thing, or whatever the expression is. In the fact that, again, I'm not just trying to make a quick $1 million or something, not to say that it's easy even just to make a quick $1 million, but I'm trying to do something that's, has some long-term viability, and I don't just want to do things because I think they can get me to a quicker dollar. I want to do things that will result in a long-term sustainable business, at least long-term meaning like 5 or 10 years time frame. One of the motivations of why I even started thinking about this in the first place, going back two or 3 years ago, was recognizing that I frankly am not where I should be in terms of saving for retirement. Again, there's various reasons for that. I mean, what is this, 2023? So like 8 years ago, I basically had to reset all my finances to zero, or not even to zero, to like negative. And when I say all my finances, I mean literally everything. So, and I'm already 40 years old, so that just gives you an idea of where I'm probably at, which is not where you'd expect to be your average middle American 40-year-old to be in terms of his retirement savings. So as I was mapping out, with my current income at my current job, projecting out until like age 67, which would be the age I could retire from a Social Security perspective, mapping out again what my salary would be with how much I knew I would be able to save for my retirement, which is basically to say like max out a 401k type of a plan in terms of what I can put in on an annual basis for my contribution, and maybe a little extra like in a Roth IRA or something, which is only another $6,000 or something. But if you put that out, again, now you're only compounding over like 25 years or 30 years maybe at the time I was looking at this, as opposed to what I obviously should have been doing. I mean, which I did, but again, just various things happened in life that had to go through this reset. But if I had been able to start this, when I graduated college and I was 21, 22 years old, and then I would have been compounding for 45, 50 years before hitting retirement age, obviously I would have been in a much better spot. That being said, I recognize I do have a pretty good income. So again, the fact that I am able to save a pretty sizable amount while still even having to pay a lot of expenses, just family stuff and some special circumstances that do frankly keep my expenses a bit high at the moment. But even with that, I'm still able to save a reasonable amount towards retirement. But so again, when I was looking at all this, again, just projecting out to age 67, I was seeing, with some assumptions about how much my investments would be earning year to year, and, the compounding on that money, et cetera. The number, I won't get into the numbers themselves. I don't remember them even exactly, but I just recall thinking that the total amount I figured I would have in a 401k plus a Roth IRA, let's say, it would have been sufficient to retire on for sure. I mean, my wife and I wouldn't be hurting to, buy food and stuff in retirement age, but it also wasn't like, I don't know, it just didn't seem like a large enough number that I was expecting, again, I would be at, given the amount of salary that I do generate year to year. But again, you just have this realization that regardless of how good of a job you have, the vast majority of normal, your average employed person, typical white collar kind of job, you're in the, say, sub $200,000 a year kind of bracket. Again, could be anything. If you're a teacher making $50,000 up to highly skilled engineer or lawyer or whatever. I mean, I guess lawyers could maybe go higher, but again, let's just say you're employed by somebody else. You're not running your own law firm or something like that. then again, generally let's just say maybe under $250,000, so $250K. Like there is kind of a ceiling of sorts in terms of your income generating potential as an employee of another company. Like sales and commission driven jobs, sure, you got a lot of upside potential if you're really good at your job. But again, just speaking for your average guy that just wants to go in, do his thing, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 5 days a week, clock in, clock out, he's never probably going to make more than $250K a year. And now, of course, some would say, hey, if you were making even $100,000, $200,000, whatever the number is, $75,000 a year, like you should just be saving, half of your income to your retirement or whatever. But again, it's like if you were making $100K, somebody's going to tell you got to save $50K when you've already got to pay $20K, let's say, roughly in taxes, and that leaves you with $30K to kind of live on. And I mean that goes by pretty quick if you've got mortgage and car payment. If you got kids, freaking raising kids is expensive, right? So I hate people that come out with those arguments of just saying just save maximize the percentage of your income that you're saving year to year, so that you can retire early, or at least be able to retire comfortably when you get to 65, 67 years old. But again, you're making a huge sacrifice in doing that, in that more or less in the prime years of your life, you are keeping your expenses so low that you're very obviously just very limited in what you're able to just do day to day. I mean, you're not taking significant vacations aside. Maybe you take the family up to some national park and you camp out or something, which, some people are into that. I'm not really into that. So that's not really my cup of tea, but you're just fundamentally going to limit what you're able to do. And again, for some people, that's fine for them, not for me. So that's a decision I have made, and maybe you have that same. So anyway, you start to think, well, if I want to get beyond this kind of this real cap of your income generating potential by being an employee, what are you supposed to do? Well, again, that's where you either go like an investment route, do things that are more risky on an investment side, because again, my projections were all assuming relatively modest earnings just in, index funds or whatever, just say on average 6 to 8% a year, which is what the S&P 500 I think is roughly returned over the course of since it started. And so it's a pretty safe bet to make. If you want to get more, well, how could you go from 6 to 8% to 18 or 20% returns? Well, then you got to take on more significant risks with your money, meaning maybe you take money out of that 401k and you buy rental property that's significant. If you can find one that's significantly undervalued, then you can certainly generate significant earnings in those types of scenarios, potentially, if you're really good at it, or if you just get lucky like I happen to do. Or you take risky bets on, individual stocks, take a company of your choice that you think, again, is undervalued and you think is going to be skyrocketing in somewhere in the near future, and you just put all your eggs in that basket, fingers crossed it's going to go up and it's not just going to go to zero. Point being, I guess you have to move away from this idea of being fully diversified, having really safe investments, if you want to have the even potential to surpass just your standard index funds. Again, knowing that statistically speaking, you're likely to be on the losing end of that deal and end up not actually beating the S&P while taking on a lot more risk. So that's, again, one option. Another option, though, is again, starting a business or operating or owning a business of some form, whether that means starting something from scratch, which is what I'm trying to do right now, or that means maybe using some money that you've saved to buy a business, and then if you have the skills, then to make a business more profitable. You could conceivably, as I just heard on Russell Brunson talking about a podcast today, almost become a business flipper, more or less, meaning maybe take an undervalued business, buy it, build in the right processes, streamline it, make it more profitable. Then you can resell it at a higher price because it's generating more revenue, or you just hold on to it. Again, you just take the cash flow and you roll that cash flow into buying another business or whatever the case is. Point being, you have to take some kind of drastic action. This is, I guess, the bottom line. Which direction you choose to go, I think, should be dependent on what your own personal expertise and interests are, and maybe comfort area to a certain degree. For me, starting online business, I think, is probably the only option I personally have. Just because, again, I don't have a ton of time. I'm not looking to quit my day job like tomorrow. So I wouldn't, there's a few other business ideas I've toyed with, like even just starting a handyman business. Because again, I think that's a relatively high demand need. I mean, just any skilled worker, but handyman doesn't require you to go to school for any particular thing or get licensed in a specific trade, et cetera, et cetera. So it'd be easier to do in that sense. It's just, you're just trading your money for time for a while if you're just working for yourself. So that's not really, it's hard to scale that unless you, again, then just hire employees to do the jobs for you. Then again, that's just taking on another level of risk, etc. So the online business, of course, why it's been booming in recent years is obviously just because it has been shown to be something that can be rapidly scaled and highly profitable because your costs are just so minimal. Again, not to say I've figured that all out, obviously, but just I think it's the best fit for what I'm doing. The idea, though, of buying some business or some asset that's already established and maybe trying to make that thing more profitable is actually something I have thought about. And I honestly haven't done a lot of research into it, but again, something that Russell Brunson talked about. I think there's a site called DotCom or something, which is like a clearinghouse of sorts for, I don't know if they just kind of are marketing online businesses like e-commerce stores and various other things. But yeah, they're just like businesses you can just go buy, which might just be like it's a website. If it's like a blog and maybe they're doing affiliate marketing from a blog and somebody wants you to sell you that blog, you could do that. Or somebody has like a Shopify store for some products and they just don't want to do it anymore, but they want to make a little money off of it, so they'll sell it to somebody else and you just take over the actual running and operating it sort of thing. So I think that's an interesting idea. Again, given for somebody like myself that I have maybe a little more flexibility on the potential cash investment I can put into the business versus I don't have a ton of time investment that I can put into the business. So I'm meaning to kind of dig into that a little bit more as a potential option. But anyway, nevertheless, that's just, random thoughts of Kyle today. Again, this is more just my video diary to myself mostly, not for a lot of entertainment value, and not to say I've got this all figured out and I'm going to sell you my course on how to start an online business. Funny enough, I ran across some YouTube short from some dude who said, hey, it was like a short clip, the sort of thing, obviously, but he's like, yeah, hey, so I took on this challenge of trying to make $1 million in a year, and here's how I did. And I just quickly ran through some things he had tried to do over the course of the year. He did make some money, he lost some money, and at the end of the year, he was up like $146,000 or something. But again, I think it was something he was doing like full time again. So the fact that, and I have no idea who that guy was or what his skill sets were or whatever, how that all came about. But that was just, again, a little sobering, I guess, of the realities of the fact that this is not at all easy, obviously. So anyway, I'm going to go now, and since it's not super late, at least it's not crossed the midnight mark yet, I might spend some time reading my new book that I got. Daryl Eves, I think his name is, about the YouTube formula. Anyone can unlock the algorithm to drive views, build an audience, and grow revenue. Free book I got. It was sent to everybody that went to Funnel Hacking Live. Did not expect to get it, but just randomly showed up in the mail the other day. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I'm going to go do that. Hope you're all doing well. Keep on kicking ass, taking names. And I'll see you next time. Peace.